Welcome to the Divine Feminines podcast and channel. I'm your host, Steph Desar, and I am here to do a special holiday festive episode. So this is really intended to launch around the festive period, Christmas, whatever you want to call it, happy holiday season, New Year's, and this whole time where we've got a lot of celebrations, time off from work, spending time with family, maybe traveling, buying lots of presents, doing lots of cooking. A lot is happening. So this episode is all about how to set boundaries in the festive season. And boundaries are important regardless, but in the festive season, they are even more important. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that are already like dreading maybe, like, oh God, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And what about... But this is supposed to be a bit of a break. It's supposed to be the time where you get to yourself, or you'd hope so, you get some time to yourself before you launch into a brand new year. So there should be a good feeling about this. And if there's anxiety pent up, some frustration, some anticipation that might not feel so great, this is the episode for you. But before I get started, don't forget to like and subscribe this channel. We're the Divine Feminines on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. That's Google, Spotify, Apple, you name it. And we're also on Instagram and TikTok. That's Divine Feminines with a Z at the end. And I've got something really great to say to you guys. I haven't really made any noise about it. I haven't even posted this yet on social media or any of the platforms about the fact that the Divine Feminines podcast has reached some stats from Spotify. So we're all on different platforms, but Spotify does the Spotify Wrapped for the year on podcasts. And we have managed to be in the top 10% of global reach of all the world, because it's global, in terms of podcasts of well-being and spirituality, health and that kind of category. So this is an amazing feeling. I'm just truly grateful for this. I'm really happy to share this news, and it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for you, lovely souls, and sharing and supporting and continuing to listen and, you know, and finding me, whatever it is that wherever you're at in your journey. You know, we were meant to meet and align, and you were meant to come across this podcast. And if you're listening now, then you know you're probably one of my loyal followers and listeners, and I'm really, really, really grateful for you. So I just want to send you lots of love and light. And if there's anyone new that's joined, you know, thank you for being here, because you're also making that difference. You're helping this become more of a global reach. I do this out of the goodness of my heart. You know, it's not something that I get funding from or anything. It's something I do out of my own time and my own energy and investment, and I do have to put funding behind it to make things happen. Shout out to my producer Wave, who does all the sound and everything so that it sounds immaculate and so well mastered on the audio platforms. And well done to my nephew Jordan, who actually is my designer, who is a professional designer that has done all my artwork and all my branding. And to all of the guests that I've had in the sort of previous years, and a few of the guests I had this year, because I've gone very much solo, and there's a reason for it. And ever since I did, actually, this has propelled forward the reach and the engagement. And I think it's because my message, the message of my journey and what I really feel I need to share, is the one that's needed right now. So let's get into it. It's the holiday season, the festive period, lots is happening. And even if you're very good at setting boundaries, how do you really hone in and be really vigilant and mindful of how to set boundaries that are needed during this time? Because this is a season where it's not your normal, right? It's not your normal day to day. You might be seeing family you don't normally see, meeting up with friends you don't normally meet up. There might be lots of different interactions, meeting new people you never met, traveling, going to people's houses that you don't normally go to, say people, but you know, friends and family that you don't normally see on a regular basis. So it's very much a season of a lot of that's different to maybe your usual day to day. And in your usual day to day, you probably got lots of good boundaries in place. And if you're, you know, really mindful and doing the work and really trying to, you know, be on your self-care regime and your self-mastery and just making sure you have a healthy well-being and dynamic, then I believe that you've probably got some very good boundaries. But we can always do with a check-in on our boundaries. And like I said, this is a time of year where lots is happening, just different to your baseline, different to your business as usual life, right? Your typical like day to day. And so different boundaries are necessary, and actually being a bit more frank about what boundaries are needed are going to help. Because like I said in the intro, you know, a lot of people, and I've had this, like, I've had many people sort of say this over the years, and even I was one of them, like, you look forward to Christmas because you're like, oh, you know, Christmas is supposed to be one of those nice, you know, nice times of the year, lots of food and everything. But then the other side to it is that you look forward to it, and the other side is like, oh, but I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And then it becomes a bit of a stress. So what I want to talk through are kind of like a threefold approach. So how do you set boundaries for yourself, personal boundaries that will help you? I mean, all of these boundaries are going to help you, but boundaries for self, to do with that relationship with self and connection to self. And then we're going to talk about boundaries to do with work, because work can still be glooming in and creeping in when you're supposed to be out and taking a bit of a break. And then finally, how do you set boundaries with those friends and family, especially during this holiday season, because they may be more, you know, around, more present. You may be seeing a lot more of them. So we'll get into all of those. And I am sprinkling in a few little anecdotes and just personal experiences over my years of Christmas. Christmas has changed so much for me. And I think this is a really interesting thing to share with you guys. Because and some of you might not even celebrate Christmas in a religious sense, but I know a lot of people that are not, you know, Catholic or Christian, and they still sort of celebrate the coming together with family on Christmas Day, because in the UK and in the US and in many other parts around the world and in Europe, that's a day that we have off, right? And it is, you know, meant to be for tribute to Christmas, which is religious, but it's still a moment for family to come together regardless of religion, right? So everyone's probably doing something similar of coming together with family and friends, having food, giving presents, you know, spending some time. And when my mum passed away, she was the pillar, the matriarchy of the family, and we were all together. And she would, you know, she'd definitely be the reason why we'd come together, and we'd find ways, even if, you know, there was a brother that's got kids and he's there and he's got to come and see us, whatever it was, there was a dynamic, it was there. When my mum passed away almost 10 years ago now, it really just changed. And some of you might be going through that. So I send massive love and compassion and just big hugs, because it's not easy when you lose such a significant loved one, and then you approach the first festive season, the first of, can be so hard, because everything that you knew those moments to be are changed, are forever changed. And at the beginning, it's really challenging and can be quite sad. So my heart goes out to you guys. And I really want to say, like, use it as a moment to just self-reflect and give yourself some love. Don't allow it to draw you out and make you feel sad. I mean, if you do feel sad, let that emotion go. And like, let it come and let it go, right? That's healthy too. And it'll be good for keeping your energy up as well, rather than hoarding it in. But yeah, over the last 10 years, my Christmases have transformed. I've gone from doing Christmases with the in-laws when I was married, and so a lot of you guys would probably be like, yeah, the in-laws. But, you know, I'm sure we always got these in-law stories, but there's in-laws that are kind of decent people, and then there's just toxic energy vampires, and then there's just, you're going out of your way and people are not grateful. So I'm not trying to put a bad spin on in-laws, because there's good in-laws out there, but then just the same way, there's probably in-laws or extended family, whether it's friends or what your partner's family or whatever it is, even your own family, that can be quite energy draining during this time. And I've been through all sorts of dynamics, and if I look back now, there's been some really good moments, probably more as a child, more when I was sort of, you know, and then when you get into the older years, there was a lot more like energy draining experiences. There's other people that started to come into the mix, and it got quite a lot. But even just consumption of alcohol and people being rude to each other or saying things, and just expectations, and, you know, over giving because you're doing more than others, or, you know, you take on a lot more and you don't actually put a boundary in place. So all of that can happen, and you can feel quite depleted, and all of a sudden the holiday seasons were supposed to be happy holidays. It's almost like, fucking hell. Oops, sorry, I swore. But bloody heck, like, I'm not really enjoying this. And I've been picking up the vibes of a few people, not to say any names, because I interact with lots of different people through work and through things. And I feel like some are like really feeling the heaviness, because a lot of people are getting sick around this time of the year, because it's cold, especially if you're in colder countries and climates. And, you know, if everyone's not feeling well, who's going to do all the cooking and cleaning and all of that stuff? So it can be quite a hassle rather than it being a joy. And I'm in a place now where I've really just taken a very, what's the word? Different alternative. I've created my own paradigm, because I don't believe in Christmas. I'm not into any religions. And I think of it as the day of indoctrination. But if you want to use that day to just be more with yourself, be mindful, or use it for like high vibrational purposes, then it's great, right? Whether it's on your own or with friends. And I've done Christmas, I did Christmas with my dad last year, actually. And that was really nice, because we couldn't really travel. So I had that moment with him. This year, unfortunately, I couldn't go and see him because my flight actually got cancelled to go and see him. And then I knew that the universe was sending me a message of, you're better, no, we want you to go and do you and have some time alone. And actually, to be honest, if I had spent that time with my dad, love him to bits, but I would have spent a hell of a lot of money trying to do something really cool while I, you know, spending time with him, and him moaning. And it's really expensive to do stuff when you're abroad at Christmas time, especially where we would have been. And yeah, I then had to replan things and just go with the flow of stuff. And I'm traveling, but I'm doing it on my own. I'm just doing what I need to do when I need to do it. And yes, I've got some work to do, but again, need to set some boundaries. So I do feel I'm in a good position. Doesn't make me any better than anyone else, but in a good position to share some wisdom and give some encouragement and give some good examples of how to set those boundaries, and just help you feel a bit more like empowered and own this moment, so you get the most out of it. And so you can say, actually, I set those boundaries and I'm feeling good. And actually, this time out has actually been like a time out. I've actually gained from it rather than feeling depleted. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to go back in, or I don't feel rested. I could do with a bit more of a holiday because I've had to deal with all of this drama, because it can feel like that, right? So let's talk about the boundaries with yourself first. So you've taken time off work, I'd hope, but we have public holidays too. And a lot of you will probably extend your holidays a bit longer, right? So in that, you've got more time for yourself. Now, if you quickly allow that time to build up, to be booked up, then you're not setting any time for yourself. So the first thing is to really set some boundaries around setting that time for yourself. Take time for yourself to properly rest and have fun. So a little bit of both. And look at your diary and actually be specific. Like, look at the days to come and go, no, I'm going to carve out that time for myself. No, I don't need to do all of that shopping or whatever it is. And can I get someone to help me? Why am I doing all of this? You need to ask yourself if you're taking on too much as well in all of that, and ask for help. And the thing is if you don't ask for help, you won't know. And if you just assume that, oh no, I'm just going to have to do it because I always do it. Well, you're the one that's creating that reality. You're the one that's creating that whole truth of, and you can change it. So just know that, you know, if you need to make a bit more time in your diary and you need more help from others, and especially if you're doing a family get together and stuff, or whatever it is, you can get the help of family, friends, your partner, whatever it is. So think about that. Think about how you can take some time to rest and, you know, have fun as well. So don't be constantly doing stuff, getting the food ready, doing this, doing that, basically tending to everything else but just you enjoying and having a bit of fun. And when I say having fun, I'm not saying sitting there with a bottle of wine and just drinking and drinking and drinking, because that in itself that's not really fun. Yeah, it's not bad to have a drink or two. I mean, like I said, I don't choose to because I know that it lowers your vibration. But, you know, it's a time where everyone wants to have a little drink or whatever. It's when it gets too much. But when I say have fun, like dance, play, be joyful. You know, you might want to play games with the family, or, you know, dance, sing, whatever it is, you know, like just really enjoy the time, right? It's a celebration. We are getting towards the end of the calendar year. I always feel that there's so many different endings of cycles. This is another format when we go from 2022 to 2023. So, you know, just taking a step back and looking at how much has happened. We are in this zone of the winter solstice energy. We've had Jupiter in Aries. We've also got Mars in Gemini retrograde. We have now the Capricorn new moon, which is a great time to reflect, but also start to plan. But you don't need to start doing. You can just reflect and like really commend yourself for what you've done. So you need to make that time, and doing what you can do and setting a boundary around what you can do and what you can't do and when you can do. So try not to get into the whole people pleasing, like just saying yes to everything that's asked of you, or because you've always said yes to certain things, you need to say yes now. Like, start to ask yourself, where do I need to kind of give to myself? Am I giving more to others during this holiday period than to myself? The people pleasing is definitely stemmed from a place of wanting to be, you know, valued and appreciated. But we should never, ever, ever give to the detriment of our own cup. You know, if we're filling everyone else's cup and ours is like literally not even half full, then what is the point, guys? So we need to be mindful of that. We need to be mindful of, you know, saying no and not feeling bad to say no, and just making sure that saying no to someone, to others, to not do something, or because, you know, you need to take time for yourself, you're saying yes to yourself. So this is, and that's a good thing, right? Saying no to others is saying yes to yourself. And people can call you selfish, but it's not. It's not selfish. It's called self-love, and it's necessary. And in order to get that balance and well-being, this needs to be encouraged more. And you guys know that I'm totally all about this. I'm always talking about this all the time. So what else? When I talk about taking time for yourself, so it's so funny because I've actually sort of said, well, I've been working a bit, a little bit. Not just a little bit, I've been working, and I'm going to switch off for a while. And when I do, I'll switch off, and then we've got some bank holidays. Then I've actually got work, and then I've actually got like another week off, like a really good week, a solid week. And in these times that I'm like switching off, yes, you know me, I need to kind of update and put the podcast out and make you guys aware that it's out and stuff like that, and do some of those bits. But other than that, I really am going to take time away from my phone. Now, my recommendation is setting some boundaries around either just taking a break from your phone. It could be an hour, it could be a couple of hours. I'm going quite extreme to the point that it's not extreme to be honest, because I don't really need to be on my phone loads anyway. And I know that, because if I'm not working, what am I doing? So just to not be on my phone, to just like reduce device times, keep my phone on flight mode so I'm not just on WhatsApp and messaging away. So you can set limits on your apps. I love doing that. So my Instagram either gets deleted, and I do spurts of that because it's just easier. So it's just not even there. Or it's on a timer, so it can only come on for like 20 minutes and then it times out. And then, you know, you have to specifically request for it to open up again. Otherwise you can't get in and it blocks it. And the same with WhatsApp and other key apps. So that's something you can do in Apple. I think you can also do it in Android. But, you know, having that time away from device and being with yourself. So one thing I'm going to definitely do is keep my phone in the drawer, or just have it on flight mode. And as I'm just doing my day-to-day, go out, do my thing, meditate, whatever. If I see some nice views or whatever, I'll because I'm traveling or whatever, then I will take my phone out and take a picture. And then later on, maybe in the day, I might want to go and check messages and stuff. But to be honest, there's no need to, unless you know that you've got stuff you've got to do and you need to interact with certain people because you've got arrangements and plans. Of course, you don't want to just disappear off the face of the earth. Yes, communicate, but you don't have to have your phone always on. You know, as long as the plan's in place, you know, you can take that time. And as long as there's nothing risky that's happening or dangerous, then, your phone being on flight mode or just being in the drawer for a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. And don't let anyone give you a hard time for not responding to a message or picking up the phone or whatever it is. You know, especially, obviously, if you know you're going to get a phone call, it's about getting some shopping and stuff like that, then manage around it. Just use your loaf. Just use your common sense, and it will be fine. And don't get too scared or worried about doing that, because I think it's, when you think about it too much, you then make it into like a negative, or make it into something that it's not. And then you just basically create this negative stigma about something that's actually supposed to be quite healthy for you. And focus on doing one thing at a time. So don't give yourself, look, this is the holiday season. Just be mindful of like not going overkill. Just do what you can. Now, I was a big culprit of this, because doing the like Christmas dinner and stuff, I'd take on so much. And in the end, like, you know, I pulled them off, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot sometimes. And then, you know, Christmas Day, you're just like cooking and cooking and cooking, and there's just no rest for yourself. So just try to just take a reasonable amount on, ask for help. Don't try and do all of it, do a bit at a time. Remember, if you're taking time off work, this shouldn't be that now you've taken on a new job and you're like the holiday staff for the family, and you're like the chef, the holiday stuff, because that's kind of what happens. It's like, well, wait a minute, and all of this food just for the one day. It's like a bit of overconsumption and a bit of greed, if you ask me. But if you are cooking loads, then allow that food to just like last for several days, if anything, because then you can just take it easy if you're the one that's definitely involved in the kitchen. And I know a lot of you really probably enjoy cooking, but not to the detriment of it just taking up your time and space, and you just could get some good rest, you know what I mean? So think of it like that. Have a bit of a flag. Is it flaggable? Do I need to? Shout out to one of my soul tribe that calls it flagrant. I would say, is it flaggable? Their term is flagrant. It sounds like fragrant, which really throws me off sometimes. But is it flaggable behaviour, or a situation that you need to like readjust or, you know, reevaluate? Okay, so those are things about self. And I'd really say as well, just remember to get grounded, meditate, spend time with yourself, use this Capricorn new moon energy, which will still be very potent through the Christmas period. And then we get into the New Year's, you know, you really spend time putting together some tangible plans and visions. We have an amazing event called Manifest Your Destiny, which is on the 8th of January, and it's online. So check that out. I'll put the description in the description of this episode. So everyone's invited, and that's a real session of like expansion, opening, healing with sound, Reiki, holy fire Reiki, and then using my techniques to manifest. I mean, and these are proven and, you know, proven and tried actual techniques that have worked for me, that, you know, I'm living proof of, and I know would massively help you guys. And we're going to do some real alchemy. We're also going to get fruit consumption advice, nutrition advice, how to consume consciously with Dream Fruit UK. So some of that good stuff. I wasn't trying to do an ad, but that came through because I'm saying, make sure you start to think about what you want for 2023. And you won't be able to do that if you're completely giving your time and energy to everything else, right? So that's why you need that time. And just doing nothing. It's important to have time to do nothing. I know it's so hard. I even get a bit bogged with this one, because it's like, well, surely I've got to be doing something. So it's all right for like 10 minutes. But then when those 10 minutes are up, or half an hour, like, what am I doing? And this is the perfect time when you're doing nothing. You are doing something. It's called yin energy. It's about allowing things to just settle. It's called surrender. Meditating is a lovely way to just be present. You know, you might be doing nothing. You might watch a movie, you might be relaxing, you might be meditating, you might decide, I want to do a little bit of just reading, and I want to do some vision boarding. But you could just sit there and lay there. You could sit there and just sit and be present. And you don't have to be overthinking of all kinds of things. You could just really, let go of all of that and just let your mind rest. So those are really important things to think about when you're setting those boundaries on behalf of your own self and self-time. And now when it comes to work, some key things, because a lot of you are probably, yes, I've got work off till like early Jan, or maybe even like mid-Jan, some of you might be taking off. But a lot of us would probably be taking like the time between Christmas and New Year's off, and maybe the first week of Jan. But if you've got that time between Christmas and New Year's off, you've probably got what is all in all like a nice kind of lengthy week or so, right? From Christmas Eve to sort of New Year's Day and New Year's 2nd of Jan, which is a nice stretch, right? But that time can just go so quickly. And if you're constantly sort of engaging with work, or still checking work things, then you're not giving yourself a mental break. So put the out of office on, step back. You've done what you could do now. And to be honest, I'm sure a lot of you are working in capacities that are not going to there's not going to be anything that's going to be of any harm or emergency during this period, unless you're working in the healthcare, unless you're working in aviation or something like that. Those are kind of services and areas and industries that have a lot going on at this time and are working a different nature, right? So unless it's that, then, just switch off and be sure to switch off. Don't worry about it. Just be in that happiness moment and just enjoy being with you and enjoy that time and say, I'm really grateful for this time, and make the most of that. And like I said, you don't need to be doing anything to be making the most of it. You can just be really still with yourself and remind yourself that you are number one. You are the priority in your life, not what anyone else says, not their plans, not what they want to do, none of that. So this is really important, getting that boundary from work. Now, you might have work that you're concerned that you need to get done for this time or when you get back, but you can do that a bit later on down the line. Make sure you get that rest first. And if you really do need to get something done because there's a massive deadline or something for when you get back, then maybe do it towards the end of your stay. But don't constantly think about it, because you're just going to be building up anxiety and stress for yourself that you don't need. And so if you just tell yourself everything's going to be all right, I've got it under, all in hand. Everything's in hand. Everything's always working out for me. Everything's always working out for me. I'm on my highest timeline. I am in the right place at the right time. It is good for me to rest. It's good for me to just give myself time. Tell yourself those things. Make sure you're cognizant and mindful of your self-talk, because this is how you change things. Ultimately, that is the game changer, is how you talk to yourself and the voice in your head. And these all play a big role in your manifesting better outcomes. And ultimately, from the point of being clear about your boundaries and what they mean to you, and empowering yourself that the boundaries are right for you, and reminding yourself that they are of value to you. So then the final part of this is all about family and friends. So I'm saving the best till last, because how many of you have been at that dinner table and then someone's complaining that the food isn't that good, and you've been slaving all day long on the food, or someone saying, oh, you've taken too much to eat, or how come you're eating that? You put on a little weight this year? And like, look, this is not acceptable behavior, right? And taking it is allowing it. And it's important to just say, no, I don't, can you not talk to me like that? And if you say it in the right way, it doesn't need to become an argument or whatever. But some of you might already be like, no, I don't even want to be at that dinner table. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be with those guys. And if you're not really feeling to be in those dynamics or situations, or you don't want to go to a certain friend's house, or you don't want to visit that auntie because you actually don't enjoy it, you've not got a great track record, actually, you're more anxious about it all and not really feeling to do that, then cancel and say no. Just basically put yourself first and say no and say yes to yourself, and don't feel bad about it. If you get questions, just say, oh, you could just tell the truth. I'm not telling you guys to lie. If someone's saying some rude stuff to you, you can just say, like, I find it rude. I don't quite like it. I know I'm not going to enjoy myself, so I'd rather do my own thing. I'll catch you up another time, or I'll meet up with these guys then, whatever it is, right? And otherwise, you kind of end up spending your whole day with a bunch of people that you don't bloody like or you're not feeling, and your holiday period's gone, and then you look back and you're like, wait, why did I squander all that time? Like, I could have just been on my own. Or I could have just been doing something with a whole different vibe. So definitely speak up, speak your truth. And the more of you that do that, actually, is going to change the dynamic of Christmas. Because I feel like Christmas is really being given this stigma, and this society puts it in this frame, and that you have to be like this at Christmas. You need to do these things, and that is you at Christmas. And it's so funny because when I was at work, we're all talking about like on calls and stuff. So it's the holidays, what's your plans? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm actually abroad. And they're like, oh, are you? Because maybe they didn't realise that it was sunny in the call. But I was like, yeah. And I sounded so alternative that a lot of them that I spoke to was just like, oh, wow. And it was just like, oh, wow, that is actually possible. And so many of us have been programmed and conditioned to behave a certain set way during this holiday season, or to just follow a protocol of activities and things, and just feeling drained. So look, you don't need to be at every shindig or event. You don't need to go to every invite or whatever. Put yourself first. Make sure you map time for yourself. And then after that, say, who do I, and this is true, you know, family or not, friends or not, whatever it is, where am I going to get the most fulfillment and joy and excitement and just good vibes? And then maybe write those names down, and you probably have some plans of what you can do. And you can change stuff. You can go, actually, it's these lot versus these. Right, I'm going to try and shift things. I want to spend more time on Christmas Day with this group or whatever. If that's not possible, then I'll do it on another day, and I'll spend more time with myself then, or whatever. Or I'll turn up at this, but I'm not staying for the whole thing. I'll give it a little time and I'm coming out. And if people got a problem with me leaving early, or they deem it as early, it's not early for me. I've come, I've showed my face, I've done my thing. And if you feel you need to do that to pay respect, do it. But get out when you need to get out, and set that boundary. Like, say, hey, I'm here, you know, thanks for the invite, you know, I'm here, let's have a good time. And show your face and do what you're doing, and then just be like, yeah, I'm only coming for like a couple of minutes. That's what Steph would say. I can only do a couple of hours, and tell them in advance. And if they are cooking food or they're doing something special for you, you know, then, you know, make sure you communicate things, because you don't want it to be disrespectful. At the end of the day, you can communicate your boundaries and you can do it in a respectful way. And if other people don't like it, that's their business. It's not your problem. You've done what's right for you. And a lot of people that don't like it tend to be those that have very limited or weak boundaries, or no boundaries at all. So they don't understand that dynamic of when you're speaking up for yourself, and when you're saying, oh, you know, I can't do this, or I can come along to this, but, you know, I'm not going to be able to stay for the full day or whatever. And, you know, if it's got to do with parents or partners and in-laws, just have the candid conversation, because maybe you've sat there through some Christmas after Christmas with in-laws and it's just like long, and you're like, do they have to really come over this year? Maybe we can change it. Now, by the time you listen to this, probably a lot of you have got your plans in place, but wherever there's wiggle room, and sometimes if it's not a big deal, like to shift things, like, you know, not everyone's coming to eat at your place, but you said you're all going to meet up somewhere else. Maybe you say, yeah, I don't mind doing that. Can we do it another day? Or I'll come, but I'm only coming for an hour because I've got to spend a bit of time doing other things. And you don't have to explain why. Just say, like, you know, I've mapped some time to do some other bits for me. You could even just say, it's for me, whatever. Or to just rest, because you know what? It's the holiday period, and I freaking want some rest before I start 2023. So I hope that this episode has helped you, because if it hasn't, then I don't know why I even did it, but I know it will. I felt this one, and I really felt that I was going to do a holiday special. I don't really do time-specific type podcast episodes. You know, I do stuff on the moon and stuff, energy updates and portal updates, and I put that on YouTube, so they are quite time-specific. But for the whole entire platform, for the podcast, I don't usually, but I felt like this was needed. And I will do one that is going to be, so stay tuned, launched on the 1st of January. So that will be Sunday, the 1st of January. Look out for it. It will be all about how to manifest your destiny. And it's a perfect alignment and segue into the event that we're doing on the 8th of January. But I will, for those that want to start getting underway with stuff, give some inspiration, some guidance on manifesting the destiny. And I will give some guidance on the numerology and the astrology of 2023 and call out some bits. Then we'll go into even more detail at the event. So you'll get some like good content and some good guidance there. And those that really can make it to the event, please do, because we're going to get into the depths. We're going to do some great healing. We're going to do some beautiful alchemy, and we're going to make the most powerful 2023 that we could possibly have on our highest timeline. So with that being said, have a beautiful, magical, festive period for whatever occasion that you're celebrating. I want to send you peace, love, light, and abundance. Mwah. And I want to thank you for being with me in 2022. And I look forward to spending time with all of you in 2023 and talking great stuff on mind, body, soul empowerment. So take care. Lots of love. Bye.